Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 17th Regional Transportation Committee. My name is Doug Rex, and I drew the short straw. I'm chairing today. Actually, Chair Baker sends his regrets. He had an item at the county they couldn't get away from, and our vice chair is on injured reserve, so she couldn't get down here, but she's online. I thank her for doing that. Thank you, Colleen. All righty, so we'll get going. Call to order. Public comments. Any public comment?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the day. I will give it a second, but because there's only staff in the room behind me and attendees look like staff and Mayor Whitlow, no public comment today. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Despite what the agenda says, if you have comments about the Regional Transportation Committee meeting summary, that's included, and it is the meeting summary for RTC that's in the packet, right?
Yep.
Which it is. Anybody have any comments, revisions? Not hearing any, we'll accept as is. Thank you very much. 2 action items for you today. The first, 2026-2029 Transportation Improvement Program Policy Amendments, and this is Mr. Josh Schwenk.
All right, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just one proposed amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program today. This would be to add $14.48 million in new surface treatment funds to the Region 1 surface treatment pool. This would allow them to add 6 new pool projects as well as adjust the cost of 1 existing project. They're also removing 2 pool projects for completed projects just to clean up the project listing a little bit. With that, happy to take any questions about this proposed change. Otherwise, I do have this proposed motion available for you in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Schwenk. Any questions for Josh? Not hearing any, I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Commissioner Cook. Second, Director Guzman. Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Josh, very much.
Thank you.
Item 5, attachment C in your packet, community-based transportation planning and innovative mobility set-aside project recommendations. And that is Ms. Nora Kern. No, or Emily Lindsay? Both. Big Ken from both sides.
All right, good morning. Emily and I are going to tag team this one. But today we're talking about 2 of our transportation set-aside planning programs and some project selections. So just a quick recap, we had a call for letters of interest for 3 of our transportation set-aside programs in the fall, starting in October. So those 3 were the community-based transportation planning set-aside, the Livable Centers Small Area Planning Set-Aside, and the Innovative Mobility Set-Aside. So we had a call for letters of interest that was about a month and a half, and we got a very good response for all 3, and we're here to talk about 2 of those programs. And just an FYI, the next call for all 3 of these programs should be next year. We're kind of shifting to an annual call for these programs. So just a quick recap, what are our set-aside programs? So these set-asides were approved as part of the 2024 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program, and then the details, selection criteria, and other policies were in the policies for the TIP set-aside program documents that was approved a couple years ago. These are technical assistance programs, so they're really intended to help our member governments and regional partner agencies with transportation projects that advance the priorities and projects in the Regional Transportation Plan. And so in order to make them a little bit easier for everybody, DRCOG maintains all the funding. We help lead procurement, and there's no local match from the local partners, which is obviously exciting for everybody. So during this call for projects for the 2 set-asides, the community-based planning and the innovative mobility, combined, we received 22 applications requesting $5,400,000. I'll talk just briefly first about the community-based transportation planning set-aside and then turn it over to my colleague, Emily. So this program, there was $2.5 million identified in the 2024 to 2027 TIP. The funding is really focused on improving transportation for historically marginalized communities. So it funds any range of transportation studies, analysis, or planning, as long as the projects focus on those historically marginalized communities. And because of the focus, kind of with these projects, we're really looking to do robust community engagement and then have really implementable outcomes so we can move the needle for these communities. So for this set aside, we received 14 projects, which was a really great to see the response. Unfortunately, we aren't able to fund them all. So we are recommending 3 projects, which you can see listed there, which come to a total of $800,000. The first is a 6th Avenue bike peg crossing feasibility study for the city of Lakewood. Next, there's a first last mile mobility access plan looking at a park and ride and a train station or a light rail station in North Glen, and then a small community transportation vision in Sherrillwood for Adams County. And with that, I'll toss it over to Emily to talk about the next one.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Nora. So I am going to give a quick overview about the Innovative Mobility Set-Aside, which is one of those 3 that we did a call for projects for. We have $4 million identified in the TIP over the 4-year period, so about $1 million a year for projects. This really focuses on transportation innovation in the kind of planning, preparedness, feasibility space. And it was designed really to invest in collaborative efforts so that we can learn different ways to approach innovative mobility from kind of a planning and feasibility standpoint, and also kind of preparedness and analysis. So you'll see a variety of project types that are funded through the set-aside. And there's a very wide range of eligibility, really associated with everything from emerging modes to kind of the mobility data side of things. And we had 9 projects that were submitted. The selection panel recommends 4 projects for funding just over $1 million. And you'll see our project recommendations listed on the slide, working with Denver, Arvada, Adams County, and RTD on projects, again, ranging from kind of TSP to mobility hubs, looking at connected signals, and also integrated app development with RTD. So that is the quick overview for innovative mobility. I know Nora and I are happy to take any questions, but we'll put the recommendation forth ahead of you.
Great, thank you both very much. Any questions for either Emily or Nora? Not hearing any. You're making this easy for me. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved, Deborah Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Second? Have a second. Darius, thank you, sir. Any further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you both very much. That brings us to our informational briefing today. We have 3. The first is here it is, the TIP. Let's start talking about it. The 2029-2032 Transportation Improvement Program kickoff. Todd Cottrell, not Luttrell.
All right, thank you, Doug, I guess acting Mr. Chair for the day. So a few weeks ago, we did kick off the development of a new TIP covering federal fiscal years 2029 to 2032. And this started with our Transportation Advisory Committee. The entire process expected to last approximately 32 months. It's a little bit longer than what we've done in the past, but we've certainly built in some extra time, certainly to help us, but also to help sponsors. The bulk of the first year of 2026 is going to be concentrated on creating an amendment to the existing TIP policy document. For that, we're using the Transportation Advisory Committee, but we're also using what we're calling a TIP subcommittee, which is comprised of members of TAC and their alternates. The subcommittee basically is used to get into a little bit more depth on a few specific subjects, more time than what we could typically use just at a regular scheduled TAC meeting where, of course, there's other agenda items, so we might not have as much time to really dive into any particular elements. We're looking at amending our TIP policy document by approximately January of next year, and then we'll kick right into both the regional and the sub-regional calls for projects. Those two will comprise all of 2027 and even going into sort of the first quarter of 2028. And in 2028, we'll be looking for just creating the document, the public participation and public hearing process, and then leading up to adoption in August of 2028. There is an attachment that puts this into a little bit more detail contained within your packet. It's certainly helpful from our staff perspective so that everyone involved in this process is aware of how long this process is. We certainly will be coming back to both this committee and our board throughout this next year to really involve those two committees and those two groups. So we're not leaving anyone sort of out in the open with any unanswered questions. With that, again, this is a very short overview of a very long process that's going to take, again, about 32 months or so. We're just started into the second month. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments you have at that time. Otherwise, thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you, Todd, very much. Questions of Todd? Just wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Agenda item number 7, attachment E, Regional Transportation Operations Program and Signal Timing Brief Presentation by Greg McKinnon. Well, Greg's getting set up here. Listen, this is a really cool program of ours. Not every MPO in the country, not very many do this type of work. I've always talked that this is you know, the one program of true regional significance that we never really ever talk about, right? Because I think most of it has to do with the fact we got a bunch of engineers working on this. They rather sit behind a computer and work on signals as opposed to really screaming from the mountaintops. So we appreciate all the work they're doing.
Thank you for the lead-in that bought us some time to figure out what we're doing. Good morning, everyone. As Doug was saying, we're talking about the Regional Transportation Operations Program and the traffic signal timing briefs. Frankly, the impetus for this was the briefs themselves. They're the reports of each of our projects, and we needed to adjust them to be accessible. And so we thought that we've changed our process. We also just kind of refresh everyone on what we do here. So it's going to be a brief history on the program, talking about the signal timing briefs, and I'll just open it up to any questions after that. So the brief history is back in 1989, they recognized that we had some problems. You can see there that we had 29 operating agencies and 2,600 signals. Since then, it's expanded to 35 operating agencies and 4,200 signals in the region. So it's significant that we've been working on this. The issues that we were noticing is that there was no coordination between jurisdictions, so there was cause for delay at jurisdictional boundaries. And with the coordination that we did have had poor reliability. It was hard to keep coordination. And so I keep saying we, this happened in the past before I came on, but I do understand how the program worked. We got an energy block grant to attempt to address this, and we demonstrated the benefits of being able to coordinate across jurisdictional boundaries. The big thing was to recognize that regional partnership is critical to achieve that success. And of course, recognize that capital investment was important to be able to address some of the failings of the equipment we had. So we developed what is called the Traffic Signal System Improvement Program. And what I'm showing here is the goal and the objectives. Just focus on the objectives, minimize traveler stops and the traveler stop time, so the amount of time that you're at a stop, and minimizing disruptions due to equipment failure. So you can see all of them are related to the delay to all travelers. That includes the ped, bike, and transit, as well as the vehicles. So this is a demonstration of our partnership. The TSSIP elements included the DRCOG staff managing the program. And then there was a set aside that involved a capital improvement element, and that was for constructing the improvements, and the jurisdictions were responsible for managing that construction, and also continuing on and operating and maintaining the infrastructure and timing afterward. On DRCOG side, providing support services, the staff managed the consultant design work directly for the jurisdictions, and then we coordinated the jurisdictions together to develop optimized signal timing and coordination plans. And then afterward, this is what we feel is the most important thing, we collected data and prepared benefits to illustrate immediately what the benefits of the program were. This slide here is a summary of all the work we've done in the last 25 years, as you can see there. There's a lot of system upgrades so that the control system that's connected to the controllers in the field have been improved. The more robust communications, the fiber optic communications, connecting 95 signals on the, or 95% of the signals on the regional roadway system. And we've upgraded thousands of traffic controllers so that they're more capable and more reliable. The benefits you can see there is, they're big numbers, but there's just a summary of the signal briefs that we're talking about today. So just a brief on what we do to help out. We have staff here that will coordinate with the staff of the jurisdictions, and we have a standard process. And on the next slide, I'll define some of these terms if they're unfamiliar. We first define a common cycle length, and the cycle length is determined as the amount of time it takes to go from the first green all the way around back to the first green again as the lights flash through the heads. And what we're looking for is a cycle length that has a minimum delay for all the vehicles and travelers passing through the intersection. Once we've got that, we split up that cycle length into phases, and that's all the different movements, the straight, the turn, left turns. And then for the coordination, we establish an offset. I'll show that in the next diagram. And then we implement, optimize, and evaluate it. So here's the diagram. I always work better with diagrams, so hopefully you understand it as well. You can see if I can press my button here. Okay, so the cycle length here mentioned, you can see how it goes from yellow to yellow. So that's one cycle moving through all the different movements. A phase is each one of these different colors, so that's the red phase there. And the offset, so this is the cycle that we have, is to allow for the offset to allow the vehicles to move down the road and hit the next green to fit through there. And what we call that is the space that it's fitting through is the green band. So to minimize delay, we try and maximize the green band. Now, I'll point out, this is a very simplified illustration because you can imagine, while we're doing it this way, we're also doing it the other direction. So it would look like a cross as it came in the other direction. And then there's the crossing streets that also have to intermingle in there. So it's a balance. We're looking to minimize the delay for everything and not, just saying, let's move down this road, this one direction. Here's another illustration that I like to show, because this is the outcome. Well, actually, it's not. This is a before diagram, but the green line that we see here is the speed limit for the road. And so you can see this is a time-space diagram, so the time increases going this way and the distance increases going down. And so what we see with the blue lines is that they are going pretty close to the speed limit until about 92nd Avenue, and then there's some delay for some of the travel runs. Excuse me. And then that delay compounds for some of the runs going further and further out, showing delay as the line moves away from the green line. And so the result of our projects is to try and push those blue line runs, and those runs are our staff driving down the roadway with GPS equipment collecting data as they're moving along. And the reason they do that is for the data collection for the signal timing briefs. So there's an illustration of one of the signal timing briefs. They're also in your packet. There's a brief description in there about the project scope, and then we indicate the benefits. So we show the reduction in stops and delay, and then the translated reduction in fuel consumption, and also the pollutant emissions reduction. So I said it's in your packet. The plan will be from now on that we'll distribute these through the board packet. We used to distribute them by USPS, the Postal Service, but this is our new approach. And this information will also be available on a web map on the DRCOG website. Well, in your packet, the link would be live there. So that's what we've been doing, and what we're going to continue to do is described in our Regional Transportation Operations and Technology Strategic Plan, RTO&T is what we call it. That provides guidance to the work that we do with the set-aside funds out of the TIP. And we're focusing on leveraging from where we are right now. We've established a foundation with the robust communications, better equipment, and signal timing staff working together to coordinate. And what we want to do, instead of on a corridor by corridor, project by project basis, to provide services to support the ongoing maintenance of good timing. So if we see there's a decline along a certain corridor or at a certain intersection, our staff will be able to provide support on a more timely, not a timely, but on an ongoing basis rather than in different periods, because our approach had been over the years was to review corridors every 4 to 5 years. But if there's a decline in performance measures now, we should be able to detect that and address that more quickly. So in the next call for projects, as they were mentioning, the set-asides are coming up, the DRCOG is going to be leading some regional initiatives to provide that regional partnership on an ongoing basis. So that's just a heads up of what's coming, a preview. So that's my quick overview, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Greg, very much. Questions? Yes, Director Mulvey.
Thank you. That's really excellent work, then. I appreciate it because it does impact my subregion. My question has to do with CDOT-controlled intersections over I-25. My jurisdiction has a few. My subregion has quite a few. So does this program address the coordination between the CDOT-controlled intersection at a ramp versus the jurisdiction-controlled intersection that may be several hundred feet away?
Yes. CDOT Region 1 and Region 4 are partners in this. They control signals that require coordination with all jurisdictions because, as you say, they're usually the ramp signals intermixed amongst all the jurisdictions.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Cook.
On? Yeah. Fred and I were discussing this the other day and remarked that in our experience, things have gotten much, much better since the late 80s. So we've noticed that you can get on, for example, Wadsworth and go north and hardly stop until Broomfield or something like that. But question we didn't know the answer to was, are these managed real time, or is this just a model that's installed on servers? And is it one server, or is it servers at the area jurisdictions, or how does that part work?
Closer to the second one. So the controllers at the intersections are just computers. And so all the computers are interconnected with a master control computer, the system control at the traffic management center for a jurisdiction. So that the master control's responsibility is to make sure that all the signals controllers are doing what they were told to do. So are you on the right plan is what we call it. And so the plan is the description of the cycle length and the phases. And so the plans themselves are prepared as part of the work that I just discussed. and then are uploaded to the computers at the intersection. The purpose being that if there is a communication failure, that will still operate because it has all the information there. So the plans are there, and what I've been talking about is the 4 to 5 year where we come and revisit it. We update that plan, and a new one gets input. And there's usually 3 time of day plans: one for the morning, one for the afternoon peaks, and then one for the rest of the day. It can also, and we're kind of going down a rabbit hole, we can also have adaptive or responsive control. So there's detection out there that will determine what is happening out in the field in the moment and have a responsive or adaptive plan in place to react to it. That is challenging to coordinate, because if one jurisdiction isn't doing it that way and they are coordinating the traffic into that signal or vice versa, there might be some friction there. But we've had some pretty good results at Tower and 56, where Tower and 56 is responsive, and we coordinated Tower and had some very good results. There's only just some delay at 56, a lot less than I was expecting, so I was pleased to see that.
So there's some limited data collection via the detection devices, and for some critical intersections, you do manage it on the go, sort of real time?
It depends on the local jurisdiction, how they want to operate it. So the example that I explained, 56, Denver wanted to have traffic responsive going along that corridor. But generally, it's what we call the time of day plans. If we have something that's expected on both sides of the jurisdictional boundaries, we're able to progress the traffic through. But that's where I'm saying that's where we're going to be moving from, is that with the availability of data, that's, this data that's being collected or data that can be procured separately, the performance of the network can be determined in real time. Not that we react to it in real time, but we have the data available to make improvements on an ongoing basis, trying to keep things optimized rather than re-optimizing every 4 or 5 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Packboss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh man, 56 in Tower, that reminds me of 80th and Wadsworth back in the late 80s, early 90s. My actual question is, Region 1 is undertaking assuming approval of the 10-year plan in the next few months, a large update of their signal infrastructure, the computers in the back end for the ramp meters. Has that been taken into account as part of the future initiatives with this? In the 10-year plan, I should say.
So the ramp meters are separate of the work that I was describing. The region's signals at the tail end of the ramp, where you get on to, that's the signals that we'd be coordinating with. The ramp signals is a separate thing. I am aware that they're going to be, well, they have to replace the system that they have right now, and they're also evaluating something through their SMART program, basically looking at the same corridor as the previous SMART 25 effort. But I guess the good news with all that word salad is that I understand that well, at least in Region 2, their plan is to use the same signal system as for the ramp metering as for the signals. And I think that there is a lot of discussion at CDOT to trying and consolidate onto the one system.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes, Director Banker.
I do find this project pretty interesting. So a couple of questions. It looks like you chose 6 projects. Did DRCOG choose them, or did the communities come forward and request assistance? And then how do you coordinate, say, between Arvada, Westminster, and Broomfield? How do you get that?
That's a good question. So the program will focus on capital projects first. So if we have allocated funds to make improvements, then we will have an associated signal timing project with that automatically. And then we'll respond to requests from jurisdictions saying that, I'm having trouble here. And what we would do is assemble a reasonable project, so where it makes sense to begin and end. And if that includes other jurisdictions, we would pull those partners in and discuss, how do we go about upgrading this. And then the final opportunity is that we have staff that are physically collecting data right now. Hopefully that we'll do that automatically in the future. But we have staff that are running up and down corridors to evaluate how they're operating. And if it's recognized that there's some issues, then we'll make recommendations that we do a signal timing project. To answer your question, how we work between jurisdictions, it's following the description I just provided. We have our partners come in and we ignore the jurisdictional boundaries. So when we talk about establishing a cycle length along a corridor, that's the cycle length all along the corridor, and it doesn't matter if you're one jurisdiction or another. So that's the partnership that we're talking about.
Do you have different timing based on it looks like based on time of day and the amount of traffic that you have? Because it seems like sometimes the timing works, and then when there's more congestion on the highway, it seems signals, it doesn't seem to.
Yeah, that's a reality. So yes, there's the different times of day will have different cycle lengths, and the cycle length is generally driven by the demand of traffic. So if there's a lower volume of traffic, then our cycle lengths can be smaller. But the more traffic there is, the cycle lengths have to grow. But there comes a point where, there's only so much capacity. And if demand is exceeding capacity, we can't do much more than just managing the queues so that we can make it through the peak period and then move back to better coordination.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know we always used to talk about Colorado and the issues associated with that. You want to push so much water through a pipe.
Yes.
Indeed. Bill, did you have a question? Mr. Soroy.
Yeah, Doug, how is transit signal priority coordinated through your program?
We're participating in the regional TSP development, and it's a good question. It will be part of the signal timing plans. What we're going to be focused on generally is the work that we're doing. The guidance that I'm expecting that what we're developing right now is saying, okay, well, we're going to start with a 10-second window that we're going to try and employ for the transit signal priority. So that means that, as the transit vehicle is approaching the intersection, if it's red, then it will cut the red phase short and bring up the green sooner, and then provide that 10-second window if needed. But I think that's the important part of what we're talking about right now is, okay, that's the concept. But what we want to do is have access to all the data of what the traffic signal system is doing and what the transit system is doing so that we can optimize those setups. So we're not, causing delay to either transit or the traffic and other travelers based on operations.
Thank you. Mr. Rieger.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to Greg's excellent answer and thanks to his leadership, the other way that we're trying to tackle transit signal priority is through the regional bus rapid transit partnership, as the agencies have come together and really started thinking about what it takes to implement a system of bus rapid transit projects, not just individual corridors, but building a regional network. TSP, or transit signal priority, is obviously one of those big pieces of that connective tissue, along with maintenance and operations and fare media and everything else that goes into it, and one of the things that we're thinking about discussing through the partnership as well.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Thank you, Greg, very much. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for all the questions.
Okay, takes us to item 8, attachment F in your packet, Metropolitan Planning Organization expansion.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is kind of a special project we've been working on that we wanted to give you an update on. Baby. Okay, so a little bit of an overview of what this is first. So first of all, we are required under federal law to review our what we call our metropolitan planning area boundary. I'll show you a map in just a moment. And we do that review under federal law after each decennial census. So like after the 2020 census, for example. So every 10 years, we kind of conduct this review of our boundary. And under federal law, we can, and sometimes we must, adjust our boundary to account for urbanized area geography changes and broader planning coordination. So if we see that kind of the makeup of our region has changed, urbanization trends, other trends, again, we can and sometimes even have to reflect that in adjustments to our boundary. And so for all of those reasons, we've been engaged over the last several months in conversations with Clear Creek County and its local governments and Gilpin County and their local governments about the potential to expand our MPO boundary to include the geography of those two counties. So adding not just the governments, but the area, the geographic area of Clear Creek and Gilpin County potentially to our MPO planning area. Okay, so a little bit of context here. Clear Creek County and Gilpin County already have very strong ties with us directly and with the region. They're already part of our state-defined transportation planning region. I'll show you a map of that. They're already DRCOG members. They participate in DRCOG. They're part of our area agency on aging. They're part of our comprehensive economic development strategy. So this is not even bringing in new folks. It's really strengthening the ties that we already have with folks that we're already working with. In doing that sort of decennial census review, one of the things that we found is that, and understand a little bit of a geography lesson, there's the large urbanized area, which is known as the Denver-Aurora urbanized area, which is much, but not all of our metro area. And then under census definitions, we have small urbanized areas. One of those is Evergreen. The boundary of the small urbanized area for Evergreen has bled over a little bit into Clear Creek County. So at a minimum, we'd need to address that anyway. Obviously, if we make this change, we would address that and more, but that's another prompt to sort of think about making an adjustment to the boundary. You don't need me to tell you that there are strong existing links between both counties and the metro region. We all know this. We all travel I-70. We all go into the mountains. We all go up to Clear Creek County, recreation, workers. All of those ties are already there. And so in looking at this, you know, it's not often that we can do something that we think is a potentially, you know, low cost. There's not a lot of cost here. This is more about a planning process, but really a high return strategy to strengthen regional planning coordination and streamline transportation planning is the approach that we're taking with this. So a couple maps here. This map shows both the entire kind of DRCOG area, which is the reddish and the green. So all of that together is DRCOG planning area. The reddish area is our MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization area boundary. I say this only half facetiously. If you go hiking in Castlewood Canyon State Park, or if you park in Staunton State Park and start hiking, if you go fly fishing in Deckers in Douglas County, you're in the MPO. If you fight I-70 traffic to go to Idaho Springs for lunch, or you go up to the casinos in Gilpin County and go at a casino in a 30-story Ameristar, you're not in the MPO, right? So that's one of the things that we're thinking about is some of those mobility, economic development, land use, urbanization ties, and this opportunity to strategically rethink our boundary a little bit. This is just a different map, shows some statistics about the DRCOG planning area. Again, it shows our MPO boundary, but it also shows our area agency on aging boundary, which is the blue. And it's really to make the point that I said earlier, that both Clear Creek and Gilpin counties are already within our area agency on aging. And then finally, one more map. This is our state-defined transportation planning regions. There are 15 TPRs, as they're known, throughout the state. 5 for the MPOs, for the 5 MPOs in the state, and then 10 rural TPRs. Clear Creek and Gilpin are already part of our TPR, which is technically known as the Greater Denver Area Transportation Planning Region. So would not even require a change in these boundaries either because they're already part of us. So having said all that, some current activities and some next steps in this process. We've had a lot of ongoing coordination and meetings with both counties and their local governments over the past several months. And, you know, don't want to speak for them, but I would say mostly really positive reception, openness, and potential excitement about this idea. We gave an informational briefing to the DRCOG board last month. Again, really sort of positive feedback from our board, sort of affirming, you know, this project, this exploration, and moving forward. We've had some recent meetings with staff at CDOT, in particular to kind of talk about some of the mechanics of what this looks like and what it means. And we also had a joint meeting through our agency coordination team with staff from CDOT and RTD. Even though RTD doesn't provide service up in those counties, the 3 agencies together, as represented by this committee, and under federal law as our planning partners, and under federal law, we meet with our planning partners when we're undertaking something like this. So if we go forward and bring this to conclusion, ultimately the DRCOG board, you all as well would weigh in and take an action to vote on changes to the metropolitan planning area boundary. That's a federal requirement. And then if all of that happens, we would actually write a letter to the governor through CDOT, and it's actually under federal law, the governor who gives the approval or takes final action on a change like this, and then notifies the federal agencies based on the governor's determination of adjusting the boundary. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jacob, very much. Questions for Jacob? Director Mulvey.
I have 2 questions, please. This seems like a very logical next step, but I wonder if we might at some juncture receive some data about how it would impact the funding, because in our current region, particularly in Adams and Douglas County, there's considerable development and therefore considerable road and other transportation needs. And I wonder if we could learn how the addition of the east, west, and northwest areas might impact the available funding for those areas in the future. And I gather that's not something that you have the ability to address, but if it could be in the data as we consider it, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Director Mulvey. It's definitely part of the work plan going forward. What I can say at a conceptual level is this. Based on our existing formula for how we divide funding, such as for our TIP calls that Todd talked about earlier, population, employment, and vehicle miles traveled, to be frank but tactful, adding Clear Creek and Gilpin counties doesn't do much to change that formula. So I want to be really fair here, because what I've told Clear Creek and Gilpin is that, and this is true, would provide new funding opportunities for them that they don't currently have access to, because joining the MPO would give them access to our TIP dollars. But for the rest of the region, I would say that their addition actually really doesn't change the formula very much. And while we don't yet have exact figures, it really, from a regional perspective, would not amount a very much of a minimal decrease for the other counties.
Well, thank you for that, because it does address it right up at the 30,000 foot level. So I appreciate it very much. May I ask my second question?
Yes, please.
I'm the representative, along with Ms. Johnson, General Manager Johnson, on Front Range Passenger Rail, and I'm wondering whether or not that might play a role in the decision-making process on this and where it might fit in.
Yeah, I don't know honestly that it would. The one, 2 things that occur, top of mind regarding rail. So let me switch for a second, talk about mountain rail, because the proposed mountain rail actually would go through Gilpin County. There would potentially be a stop in Downeyville. It's something that, while I don't want to speak for them, something obviously they're thinking about and that they have their considerations and positions on. When it comes to Front Range Rail, however, the only thing that off the top of mind occurs to me is that 2 years from now, the next time that the DRCOG board makes appointments to the Front Range Passenger Rail District Board, under Senate Bill 238, there is a provision that the vote for those appointments occurs within, it occurs within the MPO planning area. So I think they would potentially, now I'm doubting myself, I think they would potentially be part of that vote in the future.
Yep.
Am I right? Okay, yeah. So again, a very small change there, but.
Thank you, Director Mulvey. Mr. Coleman, sir.
Just one quick question. Why would we keep the eastern part of Adams and Arapahoe counties at this point? There's only two highways, right? I-70 and US 36, only asset management corridors. Iju Creek, the line, is an arbitrary line anyhow. Because it just seems like then they're just dangling out there with very little.
Yep. I've been waiting for that question, so thank you, Director Coleman, for asking it. Because it is something that we've talked about and something we have considered. You know, there is some potential, as you've noted, to sort of square up our boundaries, you know, bring all of it into the DRCOG MPO area, make our DRCOG boundary, our TPR boundary, our MPO boundary kind of contiguous, I should say. So there is some potential there. What I'll highlight is this, though. When you look at eastern Adams and Arapahoe counties, east of Kiowa Creek, a very vast geography of very rural areas. Nothing wrong with that, but under federal law, when we're talking about that the MPO boundary needs to be that area under federal law, the area that's urbanized or expected to become urbanized at a minimum over the next 20 years, it does become, frankly, a little bit of a harder sell to bring in that much geographic area that is and will probably mostly stay very, very rural. Doesn't mean that isn't something we could look at in the future, but the geography there, the dynamics there are a little bit different than Clear Creek and Gilpin. Obviously, up in the mountains, there are rural areas, just like we already include rural areas in Jefferson and Douglas counties, as I have facetiously pointed out earlier. But there really are some strong urban mobility, economic ties in Clear Creek and Gilpin that I think are just a little bit of a harder sell in eastern Adams and Arapahoe. So again, something we could look at in the future, but I think, you know, we're sort of testing the waters a little bit with Clear Creek and Gilpin, much harder test for eastern Adams and Arapahoe.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for the question, sir. Any further comments or questions? All right, y'all. Thank you very much, Jacob. Appreciate you. All righty, that takes us to administrative items. First member comments, other matters. We'll go to our partners. CDOT, who wants to start? Director Cook.
Darius will do cleanup for me. So he'll talk about the 10-year plan, I'm sure, but we've had workshops on all 5 regions, including 1 and 4, which would encompass, you know, at least parts of the DRCOG catchment area. And we plan to adopt those in March, if everything goes as planned currently. We're continuing to get comments and some things like that on it. I think the formal 2-week period for input has closed, yeah. And then we're applying for a build app for 23rd Avenue as part of the SPEAR 23rd Avenue project, so hoping to get a grant from that, from the federal government. We have workshops tomorrow on Floyd Hill, just getting an update on that, and then Mustang financing, continuing to take up issues with financing when Senate Bill 180 funding runs out. So that's a big deal over there. And then finally, we're getting a final presentation on the budgets for the enterprises and for CDOT generally, and with the aim of adopting those as needed as we need to in March. So that's what I have. Go ahead, Darius.
Well, that kind of pretty much covered everything. Absolutely. So the 10-year plan public comment period has ended. So one of the pieces is that Mustang presentation that Commissioner Cook mentioned, some of the other items that are going to be up for discussion at the workshop, and commission meeting later this week include a condemnation request, the off-highway vehicle permit program in Hinsdale County, and everything else. So we'll continue to update this group and the board of directors on the 10-year plan as things move forward, but all of it's out there. It's available online. The commission can still take comments if need be, even though the public comment period is officially closed. And I think that kind of wraps up our comments for today.
Okay, thank you, sir, very much. Regional Transportation District, GM Johnson, you want to facilitate?
Well, I'll yield the floor to the directors first if they'd like to go.
Sure.
Good morning. Things are starting to heat up today. I would say there's interested to see what the economy looks like. Drafted by, I believe, Senator Ball. Assuming the RTD comments exciting. The other thing is, we had a study session about fare revenues. We were looking at how we receive money, and you may not be too surprised that our cash fares are going down and other kinds of credit card or tap up. We also are going to be taking a look at things like EcoPass, parking, long-term parking fees, those kinds of things to the board to see, feel for whether or not they're interested in pursuing some there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Banker. One thing I'd like to share, recognizing that we offer various modes of mobility, commencing on February 1st, RTD consolidated 8 flex ride areas, including the former Arapahoe, Bellevue, Dry Creek, Meridian, Orchard, Lone Tree, South Avernus, North Avernus zones into a unified service now known as the DTC Flex Ride. The whole purpose behind doing that was to combine the smaller zones into a larger one that simplifies the transit experience for customers, and they didn't need a decoder ring to figure out how they had to go about to leverage it. And so basically, one thing's for certain, that customers can now schedule Flex Ride trips utilizing the desktop app, the Flex Ride smartphone app, or by calling customer care. And language system is available, but recognizing we are participating in a program with our consultants and then support from DRCOG relative to an integrated mobile app, you won't have to figure out all those different avenues in which to leverage that. And we expect that to be launched in Q3 of 2026. Recognizing one important aspect of what we do is to ensure that our assets are in a state of good repair and that the investments that have been made into the transit agency can basically yield a return on investment for an additional 30 years. What we have done is launched a webpage called Building a Better RTD. It really focuses on our infrastructure roadmap that provides a clear and accessible and regularly updated public tracking portal for all our major infrastructure investments. And it's really to serve as a repository that acknowledges like plan service changes, because what we have done capitalizing on the projects, no pun intended with that word I used, but, lessons learned from the previous projects we've done in the original light rail configuration downtown that basically dates back to October of 1994, is when we go about those projects working with our partners, we want to ensure that we're doing other work so we are minimizing the impact to the customers and then incorporating the service changes around that work that's being done. And so this is a one-stop shop whereby our customers can discern what's readily available. Piggybacking on what Director Banker said, talking about various aspects of fare media, I am pleased to share that the agency conducted more than 5 million rail system proof of payment inspections in 2025. And in conducting these inspections, our proof of payment officers were able to recover fare from 208,000 customers and issued more than 14,000 warnings and 712 citations system-wide for those who didn't pay fare. So in reference to the exploration that's being done, Director Banker did broach that when we were having our conversation. Those revenues from citations currently don't go to RTD. They go to the jurisdictions in which that train was traversing. I know, right? And so this is an opportunity, but that may be a battle to fight, but we're ready for it, right? And so also, what's really important is that the increased presence of police and security not only supports the agency's efforts to maintain, a welcoming transit environment, the personally safe, sustainable, accessible public transit network, it also helps maintain that aspect of you need to pay your fair share when you're utilizing our system. And then what's interesting as we talk about tap to pay, we launched at the latter part of November. It was just during Thanksgiving week. And now customers who do prefer to pay via cash can now load cash value onto their MyRide card or MyRide account for payments at validators. And more than 13,000 customers did take advantage of the convenient new fare payment in January 26. And we are striving to have at least 15% of all fare payments made by individual customers with Tap to Pay by the end of 2026. As awareness grows, we have to keep in mind that we do have a customer segment that is unbanked, meaning that they probably don't have a relationship with a credit card company or things of the like. But as we look to navigate different ways, I can speak from my past experience working in an area that basically had a population that was unbanked. There are avenues in which we can leverage that, so we're doing that exploration. So with that, I'll yield the floor. Thanks.
Thank you very much, GM CEO Johnson. Appreciate you. Mike Silverstein is unable to attend today, so we'll waive the RAC report. I know we have a couple of other items for you real quick. Jacob's going to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one of the items on my to-do list, you're going to hear from me later this week. I'm going to send out a scheduling poll for these meetings, but wanted to give a little bit of context around that. We've heard from several of you that this meeting time and day, particularly the time, is pretty inconvenient. Getting here by 8:30. I've heard from one member in particular who can't actually get here at all at this time, that he just can't do it. Rush hour and all those things. And, you know, when we have a winter that's actually winter and not summer, and when we have inclement weather in the winter, it can be really hard to plan around a meeting that's so early in the morning when we have that inclement weather coming in. Number one, but number two, we're also thinking about how we can make this more collaborative and more collegial. So we've come up with the idea that we want to poll you to see if it would be possible to do a lunchtime meeting. And yes, Doug would provide lunch.
Yes, he will.
We would provide lunch, but the idea would be if you're available over the lunchtime hour, that we would actually make this a lunchtime meeting, still do the business we need to do, but make it a little bit more collaborative and a little more collegial. The other thing that we're interested in is the way this meeting is sequenced right now is it's the day before our board meeting. And so when we put our board packet together and we talk about the actions of our advisory committees leading up to our board action, we always say, well, RTC will take an action on, you know, whatever, the 17th, because we obviously can't report, we can't put it in the board packet that went out a week ago. So there's a little bit of a sweet spot between when our Transportation Advisory Committee meets at the end of the month, when our board meets the middle of the month. There's a sweet spot of about a week of the latter half of the first week of the month and the first half of the second week of the month, where we can sequence this meeting right between those other two so that we can incorporate in packets the good work that each meeting does in sequence for the next meeting. So good luck to me to try and explain that in email, but hopefully you understood it when I said it verbally. So bottom line is that I'm going to send out a doodle poll or something similar asking for your availability to schedule this meeting over a lunchtime, again, sort of the beginning of the month. We'll look at different days of the week and different time slots around the lunchtime period to see if we can put something like that together. So just wanted to give you all that notice before I send it out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. All righty. I have... So Cam is moving on. He's actually going to go work with the federal government, and we're going to miss him around here, but we really thank him for his many years of work. He's done everything and anything at this agency through the years, so we really appreciate you. And I know you can't say a whole lot about what you're going to do, but I mean, well, stay in touch.
Yes, will do. Thank you.
And the last thing I wanted to mention, this is actually Director Mobley's last meeting, official meeting on the RTC as well. As a committee member, and I want to express my gratitude. She served on this committee for many years, coming from Castle Pines every morning, and I truly do appreciate everything that she's done through the years. I'm sure, hopefully you used to come when you were an alternate.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because. So we truly do appreciate you. Thank you for everything. All right, is there anything else for the good of the order? Oh, parking passes if you need them. Cam has those, and if not, the next meeting is scheduled for March 17th, and we're adjourned. Thank you all very much.